Hi guys, just got done watching the 2002 film from Full Moon Pictures and Shadow Films, and that is Bleed. Bleed, that's it, that's better. Starring Debbie Rockman, Dana Waltz, Alan Neighbours, Ori Tepper, Ronnie Jean Blevins, Laura Natifo, special appearance by Julie Strain, Brinky Stevens, and Lloyd Kaufman. The king of China himself, Lloyd Kaufman, is in this movie. And the co-executive producer is Charles Band, the guy who runs Full Moon Pictures, obviously, because it's kind of, Basically, this is a terrible slasher film. Absolutely mad. So let me read the synopsis here, and I'll tell you what happens. Oh, by the way, it's a standard DVD case, blockbuster case actually. Look, it's good to get one of them because it makes you remember the old days. But anyway, disc inside with some writing on. This is the special edition version, I think. Yeah, the special edition. So on it you get deleted scenes, extended scenes, cast and crew biographies, actors' auditions, rehearsal footage, trailers, and there's some Easter eggs. So, Easter eggs, so, a bit late. It's not Easter anymore, but anyway. And they'd be out of date now, wouldn't they, for 2002? But you know what I mean by Easter eggs. So basically, what happens in this movie is, at the beginning, Todd and his friend, they're both dressed up as women at a party. I'm guessing it was a fancy dress or something, because they're at a party. Ooh, yeah, party in the house. So they leave. Todd and his friend separate, and Todd goes to his car, where a killer grabs hold, turns him around, starts touching his body. Oh yeah, stabs him in the titty. Yeah, that's right. Stabs him in the, in the chest, like where the breast would be. And then he kills him, basically. And then his girlfriend, Todd's girlfriend, is calling and going, "Where the fuck are you? Get the fuck home. I'm naked and I'm topless or whatever. And I'm waiting for you." And then the killer hits her over the head with like a hammer thing multiple times, kills her. That's the intro. And you're like, "Ooh, this looks really low budget, but it looks like it'll be good." And the film was made on a $45,000 budget, so it's not going to be, the biggest like special effects to that. But you're expecting something from the beginning because the beginning is pretty good. So then you get introduced to Maddie, who kind of just gets a new job at the office, meets her boss, I think he's her boss, Sean, and then they go out for lunch and they have sex. And all of a sudden, they're lovers. They're in love with each other after one day. So after he sleeps with her, he invites her to the party. And at this party, you see men with six-packs and you see women getting naked upon naked. Yep, the movie's got naked women all the way through it with nice tatas. And basically, you get to meet all the characters. None of them you really give a shit about, other than Maddie, Sean, and Chris. I think one was called Liliana, I think. But she gets butchered. And basically, they have fun. Chris takes her bikini top off and puts it on his head. And she gets angry. Says, "Screw you." Well, she says, "F you, Chris. F you, Sean." And there's me going, "F you, DVD case. F you, Blu-ray case." Because it's ridiculous. So then they're all in like this jacuzzi thing inside this place. I'm guessing it's like a bar place. Like, how people have those jacuzzi inside jacuzzi with a bar. So they're all sitting there and they start telling her about that they're all members of a murder club. And they basically tell her that they've killed people. And to be in the murder club, you have to go through 3 stages. The first one is to just steal secretly. The second one, to do armed robbery. The third one, murder. So, so you're like, "Oh, really?" And they go on about it, and then she turns out that she's freaked out about it, and then she ends up not being freaked out about it. And you're like, okay. So basically she leaves, and she goes to get in her car in a different scene, and this woman Well, she's in the car, and this woman bashes her car door against her thing, puts a dent in her car, and the woman's on the phone. She goes, "Excuse me," and the woman goes, tells her to get lost, basically. So she grabs hold of the woman's phone, throws it, grabs hold of, gets her up against the wall, pushes her up against the cutoffs, then her back of her goes, and it basically explodes and blood goes everywhere. And she dies, and you're like, after 2 hits, and they were really weak, like, I was like, bloody hell, you'd have to really go on someone's head and go, to do that. So then she basically wakes up, and you think, oh, it was all a dream. But no, she's got all the blood all over her. And it turns out she has the blood on her for like a day, like one afternoon to the next afternoon. Now, blood's full of bacteria, so you'd get quite ill from that. Especially when it's not your own blood. So her boyfriend comes over, Sean, piece of shit. I can't stand him, terrible actor. And he gets all freaked out because he's like, oh no, we'll sort it out. And then he calls up his friends and it turns out it was all a joke, but they are not part of a murder club. And she hears it, and basically all of a sudden people start getting killed. Now, I'm not going to say the rest of the story other than the end. The end was pretty good until the very end. When you see the killer pull over at the end, that's where it's a bit sucky. But the bit before that, I actually liked it because the killer was like, like a real cheap ass movie with a psycho in it. And it's like really bad, but there's a part of you that kind of likes that bit. That's what it was. It wasn't anything special. It wasn't anything you'd give a care about after tomorrow or the next day, but you enjoyed it at that moment. The killer wore a white mask, just like this. Just like that, like this. It wore this mask. And had like this black boiler suit kind of thing on. And it goes around killing people, and some of them you've seen, some of them you really like. Like one person gets electrocuted, another person gets it to the throat. It's pretty good. Lloyd Kaufman plays Maddie's dad in a flashback scene, which was alright, but I gotta admit, I would have preferred him to be in something, a better role. The killer I liked a lot, but also found that it lacked the killing from the killer. Like, if you'd have had more of that and a kind of better story, the film would have been a lot better. I mean, before I watched it, I'd read some reviews about how it was great, how it's awesome, how it's different. And to a degree, yeah, but at the same time, no, not really. It's one of those movies, like I've said before, it's one of those movies where it's really, really cheap because the 2000s, because this was made in 2002, they make really cheap movies like this that cost like 45 grand or less, or maybe a little bit more. And what happens is, unlike the 80s where you had that 80s feel and all this, it just doesn't work because we all expect a lot more than we did back then. You got to remember, the 80s had fantastic makeup effects for cheap money. It had this and that, and it had terrible actors, but it had interesting storylines, And this was just like a group of people make up a lie. A woman believes it because she wants to be friends with them. And then she kills somebody and believes that she's done the right thing, even though it was a crazy thing to do. And basically, then they're in trouble. And then someone starts killing people off. And you're like, okay, well, this isn't really unique. This type of thing's happened before. In most of those films, when they go, can you keep the secret? Don't tell anybody. And then basically they die. And you're like, why am I dying? Oh no. So basically you find out who the killer is. And it is interesting, but at the same time you kind of think, yeah, an hour and 21 minutes of my life hasn't been wasted, but I've watched a movie which I'd probably never watch again. Saying that, I enjoyed Debbie Rocken's performance, and Sean wasn't that great. Most of the actors and actresses in this were terrible. But what do you expect from a picture which connected to Full Moon Pictures? I mean, don't get me wrong, some good things come out, like The Ginger Dead Man and the Puppet Master films. I love the Puppet Master films, but I don't know, it's not good. I wouldn't recommend it. I'd have to give it a 1. I'd have to get 1.5 out of 5 because it kept me interested and I was watching it, but it was terrible. It wasn't anything special. Didn't bring anything new to the table, but it's worth watching if you just want to watch some cheap rubbish, basically. And you know, if you want to see some nudity, because there's a lot of nudity in this, and you know, a lot of people like nudity. I just don't think it's a great film. I probably will watch it again maybe in a couple of years. I'll keep it, I'll enjoy it, but it's nothing special. So 1.5 out of 5, guys. If you've seen it, let me know what you think. If you haven't, pick it up like me if you see it for $2 or 50p or whatever. Don't pay a fortune for it. Don't pay $7.99. Don't even pay $5. It's worth 2, 3 most. Nothing special, but not even worth a look, really. So yeah, Blade. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the review. Take care, guys. Bye.